I'm Katona Rose, and this is another Just the Facts Ma'am Starfield edition. Guys, we gotta talk about Starfield. This is just wild to me. I stumbled across Starfield a couple years ago. I had been scrolling around looking for kind of a role player game. I wanted to create my own character. I wanted to, have a little bit of an adventure, and it just came up in some of my word searches. And I honestly stopped and stared at it because I thought it was Kaylee Coco on the cover. And I spent way too much time trying to figure out if she was actually in it or not. At that point, there really wasn't a whole lot released, so there wasn't much that I could even find about the game. But I knew it was coming, and it's been sitting in my wish list and Steam ever since. The amount of articles that come out every single day about this poor game is wild. I feel like there's no win. There's no way this game can be what everybody wants it to be all at once. It's everything everywhere all at once. It has to appease so many people. There's so many expectations behind this game, and I just don't see how it can possibly succeed given all of this pressure. Some of the articles don't even make sense. Some of them are talking about, this is why Starfield is a better game than Cyberpunk, because they took the time to make sure it was released properly. We haven't played the game. How do you know that? The back and forth about frame rates, the back and forth about graphics. It's just, I don't know. I don't know where we are and what we're doing. I think it's great that expectations are high for this game, but I think that we have to be realistic as well and understand that this game isn't going to be everything for everybody. It can't. There's no one game that every single person likes. It's not going to happen, and it doesn't make sense to happen. We're not all the same. I am a Game Pass holder, so I'll be playing it on Xbox the day it comes out, but I think that there's a lot to be said about sort of taking a step back and maybe not reading everything we can about the skill trees and the builds and, pre-prepping to the point of exhaustion. Reminds me a little bit of myself, my senior year of high school. I knew where I was going to university. I had already been accepted. I knew what I was taking. I knew the classes that I was taking. I had actually planned out all 4 years of university when I was 16 going on 17. I had laid it all out with graphs and charts and timelines and everything else. And it was so much time and effort based on an idea that never came to pass. I never ended up completing those classes. I didn't even stay in the same major. I didn't stay at the same university. So I think that while, some people like to sort of have an idea of what they're jumping into and sort of like to have an idea of what they're playing, I think there is something to be said coming to a game with no more expectations than, oh, this is a role player game in space. There's lots of exploration. There's lots of different ways to play. There's lots of right ways to play the game. It doesn't have to be played one way or this way or that way, for that matter. It sounds like there's a lot of side quests. It sounds like there's a lot of running around that you can do. I mean, if you look at the other games these people have come out with, it's not surprising that that's their focus. I really think it's great that so many people are asking for more. They're asking for more from devs. They're asking for more from game producers. They're asking for more for games. I think that's great. I think that it's a long time coming. I think that if you look over the last 2-3 years, there's been a lot of crash and burns. Even the ones that have picked themselves up and dusted themselves off and made something of themselves after the fact, there's still a lot of crap out there that hasn't gotten any better, and that won't get any better at this point. Especially when you're talking about massive AAA games. Yes, they should be held to a very high standard. And yes, we should expect things from them. We just can't expect all the things from them. Do I think it's going to land first day, 0 problems, no crashes, no bugs, no weird heads floating above various things? No, I don't. I think that that's going to happen. I think as long as it's not game breaking, that's completely reasonable. You know, the first months of patches are always fast and furious. And I'm okay with that. It's when it is game breaking to play that things become a real problem. Or when it's so bad, the animation is so bad, or the clunkiness of the action is so bad, or the cutscenes don't work. That's when you get pulled out of the game, especially a role-playing game. I think that's when you can really start talking about bugs and errors and things that should have been done. You know, 4 days ago, I read an article where people were freaking out because as of that point, Starfield hadn't gone gold. You know, now there's all these articles, oh, it's gone gold. And okay, great, awesome. But do you really think that much has changed in the last 3 days? Do you honestly believe that whatever wasn't making them say this game is ready for release was fixed in those 3 days? Because I don't. I'm not saying that they didn't do work over those 3 days, but I am saying that it's kind of silly to think of it as, you know, every fix that needed to be fixed was in. And there's stuff that's going to happen no matter how good or bad a game is. Again, we can't all agree on one perfect game for everybody. We're all too different. So I think the more you can go into it with an open mind and a sense of wonder, the better I think it will be for everyone. You know, like always, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for Starfield. I'm hopeful that it comes out and it does well and that people get excited about it once it's out. I hope that we talk about builds and we talk about strategy and we talk about what we are and aren't doing. That kind of stuff is really fun. And it's fun to join a community that's massive where you can find someone who's playing very similarly to how you are. What I do think we need to be super careful of is going into it with this attitude of like, well, if it's not this, then I'm not going to like it, or I'm not going to play, or it's a failed game. And there's so much back and forth with that. You don't have to go to Reddit to find angry people screaming at each other about Starfield. Both people have no idea really what they're talking about because they're not part of the development team or part of the production team or part of the marketing team. They're just random dudes like you and me. So I feel like we all just need to take a deep breath and see what happens. Yeah, let's hope that this game does everything it wants to do for us within the first week. Let's not put so many expectations onto it that it'll never succeed. Let's not let it get away with really bad gameplay. Let's try to be balanced and try to be excited without being fanatic, if that makes sense. I would really like to see really great things come out of this. I would like to see, you know, coming out of Baldur's Gate, coming out of, you know, the redemption stories that are happening all over the place. I would love to see more of that happening in the gaming world because I think we've had enough crash and burns. And I think we've had enough of people spending a lot of money on games that are not ready to be released and development teams that are exhausted trying to get something cobbled together and out. I'm curious what you think. I'm curious if you are gonna wait and just see what happens, if you're gonna jump in day one. Have you already pre-ordered? What is your game plan going into this? Are you marking down how you're gonna play the entire game and your strategy for that? Are you looking at skill trees and figuring out how you're gonna develop your character? Or are you just kind of taking a seat back and waiting for it to come to you? I'm Katona Rose. This has been another Just the Facts, Ma'am, Starfield edition. Thank you for hanging out, and if you're into it, please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.